Oh, down below, NALIS PR and marketing. No, that is not it.
All right.
I'll
So
be the NALIS TT host, but for some reason I'm not getting any. I've seen the speaker, um, the camera, and
You have chat, you have pin, and you have hide non-video participants on the NALIS.
I'm not getting it. I'm not seeing that at all on mine.
You click on the three buttons
I'm
All
not
right.
seeing.
in the blue box.
I'm
Well,
not
just
seeing
have to,
anything like that.
all right. I'll just have to signal you when it's time to wrap up. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody else, I'll be changing the colors. Right now it's 6:30 p.m.
Yes.
You'll want to start right now if you're ready, Tony.
Okay, just now. Give me 1 sec. Let me just get myself organized here. Okay, say when.
Also, everybody else, please mute your mics until you are called to speak.
Is Gabi in yet?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Say when.
Yeah, you on.
Of all the cards that are in the pack, Ace, King, Queen, Joker, and Jack. Of all the royal cards in the pack, Ace, King, Queen, Joker, and Jack. The ace is the dead man, of course, but the Joker is really the boss. He can take mutilation in grave situation, stand humanity. He can take satisfaction in this situation, stand humanity. Now, to tell you why the Joker is really the boss, welcome the boss of Barbados, the genius of composition and calypso, recipient of many, many national awards and international awards, His Excellency, Dr. the Most Honorable Anthony Carter, better known as Gabi. Your turn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you go on.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Gabi, we hear you.
Hello?
Hearing you, Gabi.
Okay, good. And we are going on for 7 o'clock, or are we on?
We're on.
Hello?
We on.
Oh, good.
I introduced you already.
Good. Okay, good evening.
Good
evening, everyone. Special good evening to Tony and to Edwin. I just want to say that I just love Joker as a human being, firstly, and as a great composer, and the simple, humble human being that he was. You know, I mean, we could sit here and talk about him forever. Me personally, why? Because I admire him so deeply. And when I looked at his work, I always envisage someone taking those songs and playing them in a symphony orchestra. And then we would get to see how really deep is Joker's work. Even the ones that we think are just party songs, because he writes from inside and not from having the ability to write. There's a difference between having to write and writing from deep inside your soul. And song after song after song, Joker gave us as gifts of greatness. And so my friend Edwin Ayong, Chrissy, and we could go on and on, Marshall, you know, so many. I don't make sense naming them, but everybody knows that Baron is my good friend. So I could say yes, Baron too, but there are so many. And what I noticed was that there are certain arrangers in Trinidad that if they had gone the other way, which they're quite capable of, people would have seen and understood even more clearly and more deeply how deep a writer Joker is, a composer, I should say, right? But you have people like, for example, if in the old days you had Bert Tremanis, or someone like Roy Cape, or even Errol Ince. You know, even to get more modern, Lester Paul. And using those chord structure that Kitchener loves so much in a lot of his songs, even more. But in terms of being prolific, we don't have any composer in the world. That's everybody must understand this. People always talk about the Caribbean or Trinidad or Barbados or Jamaica. We're talking the world. In the world, Joker, for me, is one of the greatest ever composers. If you can say that Paul McCartney and John Lennon is great, then Joker has to be fitting and sitting.
Thank you very much, Gabby. You said you were going to sing something.
So,
Gabby?
Yes, as far as I'm concerned, I love all the Joker's work, but I like the most simple ones because they're so effective. So you have like, I want somebody to hug up, somebody to love up, somebody will be Irie. I'm happy. I want somebody to hug up in the party.
Thank you very much.
Tempo.
Sorry.
You know?
Thanks a lot. Before I introduce the NALIS representative to officially welcome everybody to the show, I want to really, on behalf of all of us here tonight, to extend our deepest sympathy to his family, his wife Teresa and daughter Alison. They were supposed to be here and might still try to be. Please, Alison, please, Teresa, please accept our deepest sympathy. Joker was a truly unique soul and spirit. He was a national treasure. And you know, his memory will live on as long as there are people like those here and those watching who value Calypso culture and his genius. May God be with you and your family. Now, let us welcome to formally open the show, the executive director of NALIS, Ms. Charmaine Glasgow. She's a director. She's representing the executive director. Ms. Glasgow is the director, Heritage Library Division of NALIS. Ms. Glasgow?
Mrs. Teresa Devine, Alison Devine, wife and daughter, and other relatives of the late Winsford Devine. Professor Kenneth Ramchan, chairman of the Friends of Mr Biswas. Mr. Anthony Deal, secretary of the Friends of Mr Biswas and chair for this evening's program. Representatives of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, representatives of NALIS, esteemed panelists, members of the viewing and listening public. Good evening. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this evening's event, which pays tribute to the late Winsford Joker Devine. As the authority mandated to preserve, promote, and exploit Trinidad and Tobago's national information, NALIS is pleased to be part of this event, Friends of Mr Biswas, a tribute to Joker, an event that seeks to pay tribute to an individual who truly lived for promoting the culture of Trinidad and Tobago, one that recognizes his contribution and the genius of Mr. Devine, and an event that seeks to educate the next generation about this country's history as told through the lyrics and music created by Dr. Devine. During this evening's proceedings, we will explore, through shared memory, personal experiences, and the expertise of the panel, a true cultural icon. Together, we will rediscover Mr. Devine's impact on the cultural landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. Self-taught musician, panman, arranger, prolific songwriter, published author, calypso monarch, and road march maker, a true Trinbago great indeed. We mourn his passing and extend our condolences to his family and to members of the Calypso fraternity. And whilst we mourn his loss, we are yet again saddened by the passing of another icon, Lutalo Masimba, Brother Resistance. We owe it to these men to keep their legacies alive by promoting culturally responsive events such as these, giving our commitment to promote Calypso writing and research skills, and making available all our information about the Calypso art form and other musical genres in whatever format. But ladies and gentlemen, this evening is not for mourning, it's for celebrating. So without further ado, I pass you back to our moderator with the exhortation to enjoy this evening's proceedings. My hope is that you come away a bit more enlightened and truly appreciative of one of our own, a son of the soil, Mr. Winsford Joker Devine. Thank you.
Unmute Tony.
Sorry, I just wanted to thank NALIS, University of the West Indies, thank Ms. Glasgow very much for her support and her group. And what I'd like to do is move straight into what we call the first part of it, where we want to look at Joker, his story. And I'm inviting Ms. Holder, Ms. Gerarda Holder, the librarian 4 attached to the Heritage Library Division of NALIS, who is going to start it. And then I'm going to hand you over to the team, what we call a real big team of people like Joker, Crazy, and several of the other people who have expertise in different areas to follow. So, but let me bring on now Ms. Holder, Ms. Gerarda Holder, to give you her impressions of Joker, his story.
Thank you. If music be the food of love, play on. I have heard this quote from 12th Night all my life. And I think that Winsford Devine's love of music has played on for a significant part of all our lives. Winsford Devine was born on the 15th August, 1943 in Mont Diablo, and it is there he spent his childhood. Some of his first experiences with music would have come from playing in the village steel band at an early age. He had no formal music education and was mostly self-taught. Yet, despite all of this, Mr. Devine managed to compose over 500 calypsos in a career that spanned over 30 years, writing for some of the most influential calypsonians of the current calypso age. Mr. Devine's musical career started around 1968 when he migrated to Port of Spain. Once there, he played with Blue Diamonds. This steel band was his musical base for a long time. As his career progressed, persons would go to Blue Diamonds and ask for Joker, which was Devine's sobriquet, when they wanted to contact him. Blue Diamond's headquarters is located at the Old Eastern Market on George Street. Devine's composing resulted in a friendship, introducing him to Sil Taylor, the manager of the original Young Brigade Calypso tent, one of the most popular tents of that time. With this introduction, his career as one of the greatest calypso composers began. He started writing for the Mighty Sparrow, and the Sparrow-Devine partnership lasted for almost 17 years. It became one of the great partnerships of that era. That partnership produced such classics as Memories, George Bailey, Penny, Mars and Me, Miss Mary, Philip My Dear, and Capitalism Gone Mad, just to name a few. According to the Copyright Organization of Trinidad and Tobago, that partnership produced over 80 calypsos. While his 17-year partnership with Sparrow was well known, Devine composed for many other calypsonians here at home and all over the Caribbean. His themes included science, geography, civics, economics, civilization, culture, technology, history and development, anything that piqued his interest. He confessed to being an information addict constantly watching CNN and the History Channel. And it was the ideas gleaned from those various information sources that found their way into his calypsos. Some notable greats include Singing Francine, Say Peter Say, and Love is the Answer, Mighty Trini, Carita Banco and Sailing, Marshall Montano, Too Young to Soca, and Take Me Back to Africa, Baron, Don't Rock It So, a Melodian Rhapsody, Crazy, In Time to Come, and of course, King Austin's Progress, which is voted Calypso of the Millennium by the Trinbago Unified Calypso Association. Winford Devine was awarded the Hummingbird Medal Silver for his contribution to music and arts in 1990, an honorary distinguished fellow from the University of Trinidad and Tobago in 2016, and an honorary doctorate from the University of the West Indies in 2018. Winsford Devine died June 22nd, 2021. Music intersects with culture and linking our shared experiences and intentions. These discussions about Winford's music
Sorry, I'm not hearing.
Hold please on mute.
I'm sorry, was I muted all the time?
No, just now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Music intersects with culture by linking our shared experiences and intentions. These discussions about Winford's music will illuminate and provide greater understanding of who we are as a nation. His prowess in the calypso arena and his commitment to Trinidad and Tobago culture enriched our lives. We owe it to him to keep his rich legacy alive. On behalf of NALIS and the Heritage Library Division, thank you for this opportunity to pay public tribute to calypso composer extraordinaire, Winford Devine, the Jew.
Thank you, Ms. Golder. I want to hand you over to the team, or through, first of all, Professor Ramchand. What I'd like to do is, the team members, if you will please, when it's your turn to speak, just introduce yourself, because it's difficult to do it otherwise. So Ken? Professor? Would any other member of the panel?
Yes. So we only have about 10 minutes. So anybody like to jump in? Dawad?
Right, are you waiting before you're asking me?
Yeah, man.
Well, right, Zeno Obi, Constance, archivist in the Calypso world, playwright in the theater world. I was once a basketball referee, and once the secretary of the secondary schools drama association when Victor was president for about 18, 19 years. I think my main focus is that I'm writing on Calypso. I am collecting Calypsos, trying to follow in the footsteps of Gordon Rowley, which I can't. That is it.
What do you think, though, about Joker's story? What is your comment on that before we go into listening to the Calypsos? The story of Joker.
Well, Joker's story in Calypso is very interesting because he commented, bring a cassette of songs, Calypsos, and from there he take off. Very interesting. I'm not sure he managed the economic side very well, but the music sparkled, and I think what he had most composers is that he had a variety, so that unlike a lot of composers, you couldn't, he wasn't easy to pick up, especially in the early years. If I hear these composers now, I know one time that is X, that is Y. So he was able to get that kind of variety, especially in the early. It's not so much coming to the dregs. Lyman is crazy with that confusing.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I'm not sure. Okay, so we just ad-libbing right here. Is that what it is?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Just quickly introduce yourself so that, you know, people
Yeah,
know who you
well,
are.
my name is Dawad Philip, and well, Joker, I first met Joker amazingly in Brooklyn in the Platinum Studio where he was doing one of Baron's song and with Hugh Loy and they inside of there and when he found that I was from San Fernando, he started a conversation, a San Fernando conversation. But even before I had met him, my friend Mervyn Taylor, his uncle, is Sil Taylor. So we often would spend, I would sit down in the gallery with Sil for, a lot of time in Robinsonville, and the conversation about Joker and this copybook of books, of songs came up. So I had met him through the stories from Sil Taylor, and then met him in person in Brooklyn. And then when I had my Calypso tent, he sold his book, The Progress of Winsford Devine. And, always an interesting man, very serious and, very focused. And we had a lot of good exchanges. And that I could say about on a personal level.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Dawad. Anyone else is?
Yeah, I'd like to say a little bit. During my studies in the human impact on the environment, I mentioned in class Joker's words in the song Progress about environmental warfare and thermonuclear warfare. And students in the class couldn't understand that that was in a calypso. Who is this man that wrote that? That was the question. And I had to explain to them, well, what calypso is all about in Trinidad. And this man was great since back then. And those words kept ringing in their minds all the time. So Joker had an influence, a big influence on people in the Midwest where I studied.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny. Ken, you want to say anything or any of the other guys?
Yes, but I have very small personal contact with Joker. About 3 years ago, I just telephoned him and introduced myself and started to talk to him wickedly, because I never used the word calypso to him, talking to him about his poetry. And we had several long raps. And then we decided we had to meet and eat some food and talk and so on. But it never happened because COVID started. And although in between we kept talking and hoping that COVID would be over and we could meet, we never met. It's one of the great regrets in my life that I was too much of a coward, afraid of COVID, that I didn't push for us to meet. But he really was a wonderful conversationalist and a very intelligent man, and had some very interesting things to say as a kind of critic about poetry in general and about his own poetry writing.
Is any of the panelists here, Victor, anything to say? Or?
Yeah, the thing is that I never met Joker personally, but his work was very well known to me as a young man growing up and being around fellas like Zeno and Kenny Phillips and them. And lately, Crazy himself, Calypso has become a part of my life. As a matter of fact, I really became aware of Calypso when I was a little boy going to primary school with Sparrows, Dan is the Man in the Van. That was the first calypso that I learned true and true. What I could say about Joker is that like so many people who come out of the countryside, you know, including fellas like Ken and others of his ilk, they have a different spirit and a different approach and a different kind of sensibility to the arts and to the work of the artists and so on. I have admired and I have been a kind of resistance, as it were, in a school that I taught for 16 years, a Baptist school that eventually banned carnival and calypso and so on. And anything I had to do, anything I had to say, I would use calypso. And I remember once on the stage, I quoted from Joker's Progress, as Johnny was saying, because we were talking about worldly things and so on, and then one of the members of the board of the school was encouraging me, listen, go ahead and sing the calypso, don't tell you nothing, you know, although it was the board itself that had banned calypso and carnival celebrations in the school. Strange enough, a number of things happened after that with calypso, including one of the junior soca monarchs coming out of the school a couple of years later than that. But Joker stands out as Gabby said, as a world-renowned writer. When you look at his work is so profound and so deep. And that's a problem. That's a problem that we have, you know, and Dawud knows of my passion, you know, about recognizing the work of our own, that we tend to always want to look on the outside for verification of our talent and so on. And hats off to Joker. I mean, I wish after I finish tonight that people would begin to look at the work in a different kind. Zeno knows, sorry, last thing, Zeno knows that I have been a stickler and a lobbyist for the introduction of calypso as poetry in schools. I mean, I'm no longer in the school system, but I've been that advocate, and I still believe that if we teach calypso as poetry and as the art form that it is, we'll make some progress faster than we're making those. Sorry to.
Thank you. Right now, you're talking about the calypsos. We're going to start with the first calypso, and I'm going to ask Crazy to start with. All night tonight. Crazy, all yours, man.
He kind of just stepped out here. Oh, here he is. Right.
Yes. All right. All Night Tonight, 1991. Atlantic, that band. Leston Paul played the music, and the singer of that song was KV Charles, you know, a very popular fella. Party time, I'm in ecstasy. Boom, doom, 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 doom. Let the sweet soca music play. Tomorrow is another day. If you're feeling happy like me, together we will be. Party all night tonight, everybody. Let me hear you. Party all night tonight. Face to face, pace by pace, waist for waist. You and I go party down the place. Party all night tonight, all night tonight. Party all night tonight. That's it.
Thank you very much, Crazy. I think that it's so real good. Omari Ashby was the first panelist who will take over. Omari. Is Omari here?
Yeah, but he muted.
How do we get a message to him? Boy, I know.
Hello.
Omari.
Yes, you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Hi, good night, everyone. Omari Ashby is the name. Adjunct lecturer in the Carnival Studies Unit at the DCFA, UWI St. Augustine, and Rapso artist as well. One of the things with that particular track, for me, in terms of when I suppose when we were looking at songs that we would want to look at, this song is really an example of the breadth of Joker's work, you know, because this is right straight inside the fet, no hesitation, and I think it is important that we appreciate that aspect of him. You know, one of the things that struck me with this song is the economy of language. And that might be no big thing for some people because, you know, it's a party song. It is supposed to have no set of words. But the little words that it does have are so significant. So it's not just a kind of puff pastry party song. It's a party song. When you look at it, you can actually place yourself. I'm in ecstasy. You know, you are in the fete. And then, of course, you could write how many high things you want as an author, but if it doesn't connect with your audience, if your party song, in other words, don't make people dance, then what use is it? And I think Joker has shown himself to be dominant in that area too. Not just with this song, we could talk about the Jammer, we could talk about Feeling It, we could talk about so many of his other songs that would have showed the full breadth of his talent where that aspect is concerned. You know, so that song for me was really significant in that area.
Thanks a lot. Anybody else? You, Omari, you wanted to get a team together to just introduce any one of them to give their comments on this, please?
Okay, no problem. Well, yeah, at that point, at this point, we would just want to open up the discussion on that particular song, perhaps by looking at some of the lyrics. You know, party time, I'm in ecstasy. Let the sweet soca music play. Tomorrow is another day. If you're feeling happy like me, together we will. You know, and like I said, the language is deceptively simple, but it really transports you straight into the fete.
Dawad?
Yeah, absolutely, Omari. And first condolences to the Rapso community, my brother.
Thank you.
And to the nation.
You
know, I was kind of pondering Joker's the breadth and his hand as a composer, you know. And I know, until you said just what you said there about the economy, I felt that Joker was one of the more expansive writers, you know, that he, in terms of, he's a lyrics man then, you know, and in there, if you listen to the most important compositions, they're storyboards, you know, I mean, they're visual and everything, and they have the internal magic of things. But this is one of the songs that I must say that shows the lean side of Joker Divine, and that is significant, you know, because it's not the normal kind of Joker song.
And we must also note that at the time in which this came out, which was I think 1992.
Yeah.
That was when Super Blue was coming out of Get Something and Wave, going into Bacchanal. You know, so the party landscape, there were monsters there, and in terms of the kind of music, and the fact that he could have stand up and cut straight through that is a testimony to his talent. I see Gabby wants to contribute something, I think.
Gabby?
Just take the mute off your mic, Gabby.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
man.
you hear me now?
Just like the advertisement, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, I just want to say something here. Look as described, and then look at the contrast of a Philip, my dear. It shows you genius. You're either in one area or the other. Most writers are identified in an area, not Joker. Joker could write you the funniest song and then turn around and write you the most serious song or one of satire, where you have, you know, two things going on at the same time.
But
So
what do you think of
let's
the
look,
All
for
Night Tonight,
example,
though, Gabby?
the All Night Tonight, as my brother described, puts you right into the party. And he says to you, in a sense, look, forget everything. You know what? We going to the party. And the party will dominate us until we leave the party, because we are submitting ourselves almost like how we to the party all night. So I'm Philip, my dear, that says, Philip, my dear, last night I thought it was you in here. Where did you go? Sticking for good old London, enjoying all the action. My dear, did you know? There was a man in the bedroom, loaded with broom. He told me, come hither and void, and on the linen he soiled. He was so obscene.
Gabby,
In the
we're coming back to
bedroom,
that, you
so
know.
nasty and mean, saying to me, let me God save the queen.
Yeah, Gabby, we're dealing specifically
Hello?
with that. But for now, we were just talking about All Night Tonight, because I just wanted the views of the
Okay,
others.
I'm sorry.
Anybody else?
I
That's
just trying
all
to
right.
make the contrast
That's
between All
okay.
Night
That's
Tonight
okay. That's okay.
and
Not
that
a problem.
song to show you the
Yeah.
genius with that was
You'll
Joker.
have an
Because
opportunity to talk at length about that too. But for now, anybody else wants
okay,
to wrap up All Night Tonight? Any further what about you, Zeno? Anything?
Well, it comes from Joker's party period. I mean, it was taboo in the end of the before you go to Super Blue and so on. And I think Joker wrote those songs specifically, things like Good Music to Dance and Do Bother Me Now and so on. And I think Pretender would have been proud of him, because Pretender's lament was always, if you want to write a soca song, at least have a storyline. All Night Tonight has a storyline.
Thank you very much. I think now, thank you guys. I want to bring back on Crazy to sing Memories. Crazy? Crazy, your turn with Memories.
Every year somebody there give us cause to shed a tear and mourn, for they are gone. Now all is left is a faint memory based on a theme of a strange melody. Still, we must think of them and recall their image with pride, telling people from deep inside, this is dedicated to those who died. Joker Divine, I'll always remember, jumping when a steel band pass, playing mass, sugary, peppery, he was never ever one for class. Joker Divine, wherever you are, compare just for you. I came out with real fire this year. Joker.
Thank you very much, Crazy. And now, Zeno,
love it.
You and your team. Zeno OB, folks. Zeno is going to do the first part of this. Zeno.
Yeah, memories. Now that's an very early Divines, which is interesting. But Calypso history is repeat with a lot of these Calypso paying tribute, a kind of funereal kind of a song. I mean, from the time King Ivy sing about Executor and Kitchener sing about Invader, all the way down to Valentino singing No Replacements. They have this image of paying tribute in song. What is interesting about this one is that it doesn't take an individual singer, even though he calls name is George Bailey and and Rudolph Charles and so on, but it fits into the mold of anybody. And unlike the others, this one most could fit into anybody. So that when people die, it is a matter of see what Crazy does today and put David's name in it instead of George Bailey. So you could say Brother Resistance. That's how it works. And I didn't know this was a defeat song at all at that point in time in the early years when Sparrow sang it. And I don't think it was a big song when it came out. I think it grew because every time somebody there make us sure that there, we need the song. And I'd written a thing saying that when Sparrow died, we could sing at this as his funeral, as we had done for a lot of other people. And I think that the only thing that comes close to this in the thematically into the general idea of lament for a funeral is maybe Bunji Garling's Zion Gate, done of course in his style. So it's very interesting to see that a song that started off as just one Sparrow song, I think in 1973 album somewhere there, would grow because it can't die, because life is always the icons of the culture died. You could use it. And I think that's what makes this song particularly interesting. Other than the fact that Sparrow sings it, and it gets some of the lament into it. Now, I don't know how I'm supposed to introduce others.
Yeah. You go right ahead. It's your show.
Well, Omari first, because he was first on top. And then we'll go to Dawad and
for me, I look at all different aspects of a song, right? And a songwriter, a good songwriter will have a couple songs that will cut across almost everything. Time and styles and whatever, because it's so well written that you know it and in terms of topic. So I've often said, when you listen to a song like Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday, that is a song that will forever play, simply because of the context of what he's singing about, and every day is somebody's birthday. This song is similar in that way. We will continue, as long as there's life, we'll have to deal with death. And so this song comes into play all the time. Now that is from a practical side. For me, there's also an emotive energy to the music and the delivery of Sparrow that I think carries it even further. So you have that brilliant writing, you have a kind of performance that leaves you really almost right in the sweet spot where you want to be feeling and hopefully celebrating somebody's life in that way. So I think this song, like Zeno said, will always be there in terms of being done and being performed. This to me was one of those rare, almost perfect situations where song, topic, everything came together.
Yeah, Garth is right. So I suppose anybody else before we. So
okay.
Who is
But
here? Ken, right.
When I read it, when I heard it, I had one response. And when I read it, it became very clear to me that just what we're saying, that Devine is able to deal with immediate realities, but the kind of poet he is and the kind of mind and sensibility he has, he is always abstracting some philosophy out of the immediate situation, a philosophy that has universal implications. I have no doubt that people in other countries would sing this song when someone dies. And I would say that this was, throughout his poems, I find him engaged with mortality as against immortality. And in his writing, he's always pushing towards immortality. So for me, Memories is a song not about death, but about immortality.
Yeah, I think one of the things about that song in terms of an anecdote was that Freddie Seabaran, who worked with Cyril Taylor at the Young Brigade told us the story. He said that on opening night, Sparrow, from the time he had the song, he believed in the song. But on opening night at the tent, they booed Sparrow off the stage when he sang that. Sometimes we often may not see the value of things at the outset. You know, in other words, a similar song. The only other song I remember that it happened to, I remember seeing Nelson sing Foreigner. And the first time he sang it, it was so lukewarm. And then by the end of the season, when he was singing, people were running down the aisles and handing him $100 bills and all that kind of thing. So what I'm saying is that some songs, there is a lasting thing. The only other song I could think of, like Memories, that has that recurring kind of relevance and sentimentality is The Carnival is Over, Kitchener's The Carnival is Over. Yeah, I think so. That's the other song.
Yeah. Any I think there's both Gabi and Victor before we
Yeah,
go to the
yeah. Zeno, this calypso is that from the very first time I heard the calypso, it appealed to me in the sense that because it records and historicizes, you know, a kind of gives us that background of people who contributed to the arts and so on. To me, that it was appealing. And the more I listened to it, and the more I don't think anybody besides Sparrow could really sing that song, well, not song, calypso, and really tear you up and reach the inside your soul and your spirit. Because listening to Sparrow really, really brings meaning and connects, as the professor is saying, the living and the dead. You know, that is what the song does, Calypso does quite clearly to me. And like I said from the very beginning, it made a connection because it recorded for me, and I think for everybody else, and for the future, those who contributed to the development of the arts in Trinidad and Tobago. And as Zeno said, and as Chris did, I mean, we could insert the names of the great people as we go along. And that to me is what makes this calypso so outstanding.
Yeah, okay. Because unlike the others, which were specifically done for one person, rather singing about art and so on, this one could fit anybody easily. All right, I think it's back to the Tuni now.
I think Gabi wanted to say something.
Oh yes, right. Yes, Gabi. Kaisunan now.
Yeah. Yes, I wanted to say yes, I'm in total agreement with what the panel has said about this particular song. But remember, there's another song where Sparrow paid tribute to Melody and said, play one for Mellow, right? And I suspect that Joker also had a hand in that song if he didn't, in fact, write it in totality. Because you hear the jest, you could hear the wit, you could hear the humor, and yet you could hear the compliment that Sparrow is paying to Melody himself. So that is it deeply. You're going to find that too is a very great calypso of a tribute to a fallen calypso.
Anything to add before we?
Back to you, Tony.
Thank you very much, guys. This was quite interesting. In the sense of a Joker song about those who the past, but the one that a lot of people see as his greatest and best although I know you put it at third zero, is progress. And Crazy is going to sing two verses of it for us. Crazy, progress.
Today, when I look around in the world, what do I see? I see footprints that man have left on the sand. While walking through times, I see fruits of our ambition, figments of our imagination. And I ask myself, when will it end? When will it end? It is plain to see, universally, this land is not bountiful as it was, simply because in its quest for success, nothing stands in man's way. All rivers run dry. Soon the birds won't fly and the mountains will be no longer high. And when I really think of it, I just wonder why. I see charity deplored, equal rights totally ignored, wisdom and ingenuity working in accord simply to afford such inventions as thermonuclear warfare and environmental warfare. And I wonder now, where do we go from here? Prophets everywhere gaze upon the horizon and declare that judgment would come as the savage hands of unscrupulous men defile everything passed by. Time is running out as we eat and drink, species at the brink of being extinct. And I think no one can deny that the price of progress is high. Really, really high. Yeah, that's true.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Crazy. Ken, it's all yours now, you know.
Yes, well, let me make bold to say that Progress is the poem that Winsford Devine always wanted to write.
What a song.
He wrote over 50 poems that may be classified as social and political commentary. But Progress pulls all of them together and fuses them into the vision of the poem. But just as a kind of reminder of the social and political themes that exist in most of his, in a whole set, about over 50 of his poems, these occur also in Progress. And when I call them, when I mention the things, I'll use one or two words from Progress that will make you see that it came from Progress. Obliviousness to charity and equal rights. The ruthless quest for success. Divisions between race, color, creed, and class. Failures of religion and other social institutions. The conspiracy between science and ingenuity, the conspiracy between them and those who are blowing up the world and ravaging the environment, and the destruction and self-destruction wrought by the savage hands of unscrupulous men that defile everything. So I'm saying that he takes many of these social and political issues from the whole body of his work, and they all fuse together in Progress. But Progress is not totally, and in fact, not even most importantly, a poem of social commentary. It is a lament, a dirge, the plaint of a lover of life, his people, and his country. For on one side, Devine is the Joker in black, an Old Testament figure, a latter-day prophet Jeremiah, writing his own book of lamentations, expressing grief and sorrow at the condition of his society and the world, and criticizing mankind for being agents of destruction and heralds of the dark age of Kali Yuga. We feel the wrath of the prophet wanting to cleanse the temple, but the poem is compassionate, melancholic, grieving, questioning, and ever hopeful of finding answers and solutions. These poems chart a lifelong quest for meaning and values to stabilize our boat in the face of intense buffeting. Since I'm small, I want to know why it is this whole world so. Why it is this hunger and hatred and sorrow. Since I'm small, I wondering. Only questions I asking. Why it is this world going as it going. To me, that is the characteristic Devine note. Progress is a moving and timeless poem because it blends its social concerns with a wealth of feelings and reflections that are very complex because they relate to recorded history and prehistory. They relate to now, and they relate to intuitions the poet has about the depths that lie below the infested subsoils of a society. There's a resource down there that we are still to mine. And because he has these three consciousnesses working together, I think the poem benefits, the tone of the poem becomes complex and melancholy. It's a well-structured poem, and the way Crazy sang it, he might tell me I'm wrong. It is a well-structured poem, and I think it has 4 movements. In the first movement, you can find the basic ingredients in Devine's language and style and his attitudes and values. Here, the words on the page ignite images and symbols, perhaps not consciously intended by the author. And if we look, we can see the lines arranged, and if we listen, the lines arranged in cadences with the use of internal rhymes for special purposes, but also as a general rule to escape from the tyranny of conventional stanzas and rhyme schemes. You can call it free verse, and its vocabulary is close to the vocabulary of everyday language, but it is poetic and highly wrought. It opens with a bewildered person looking around at the world. We have to notice the variations and implications of the words. I appears frequently. I, the ego, and I, EYE, the eye that sees or doesn't see. The word see, having to do with sight and vision, but in this first section, the sea, the ocean, becomes mixed up with the sea. And if you look at the length or shortness of the vowels in the different syllables, and you remember that the unit in a poem is not the word, the unit is the syllable, which is combined with other syllables to make the soundtrack of the poem. Devine, the musician and poet, knew this instinctively. So the poem tells us that we're talking about today and we are talking about the world. Today, when I look around in the world, what do I see? I see footprints that man have left on the sand while walking through time. I see fruits of our ambition, figments of our imagination. And I ask myself, when will it end? When will it end? It is plain to see universally this land is not bountiful as it was, simply because in his quest for success, nothing stands in man's way. You notice how he gets a run of 4 lines there without pausing and without rhyming at the end of the lines. And then in the last 4 lines of that movement, the way in which he uses the long vowels to lengthen out the lines and to suggest the gloom and the doom and the melancholy that he feels. Old rivers run dry, soon the birds wouldn't fly, the mountains will be no longer high, and when I really think of it, I just wonder why, oh why. And that is typical of this poem, that every now and then you go into these lengthened areas where we return to the melancholy. And the imagery, when you imagine the footprints on the sand, you see them being washed away by the waves or disappearing in the water. Those footsteps that you see on the beach disappear in the waters. And whereas we were told lives of great men all remind us, and we must leave footprints on the sands of time, footprints don't stay on the sands of time. This poem talks about transience. The footsteps, the footprints on the sands of time are left. They're not made, they are left. That's a relic, it's a remnant. The man has disappeared. And the line walking through time, which could be abstract, doesn't come over as an abstract phrase at all, because the image of the man walking on the beach and walking into the waves, even drowning himself, time becomes the sea in which we are walking. Walking through time becomes an alternate image to the image of man on the beach, walking to the water and disappearing. And similarly, fruits of our ambition and figments of our imagination, which could be, quite abstract. I don't know about other readers or other hearers, but I know when I go on the beach and I see all sorts of rotten orange and rotten potato and fig skin on the beach, right on the water's edge there, I can see how the alliteration, the F, they've been discussing about the effing rubbish on the beach. See, and I visualize when we talk about, and his contempt for the fruits of our ambition and the figments of our ambition, the contempt comes over and is reinforced if you visualize this rubbish floating on the beach. When will it end? When will it end? It's the tolling of the bell, a death knell perhaps. And the last thing I would look at in this movement is the finely placed word, nothing. In his quest for success, nothing stands in man's way. And nothing is two-sided. Nothing stands in man's way because he's bulldozing everything away. But when he has succeeded in bulldozing everything away, he has to confront nothing and his nothingness. So the nothing here works both ways. I'm just citing all of these to show the complexity of Devine's use of language, and yet the accessibility of the language. The quotations asked by the bewildered person in the first movement are answered in the next two movements, each of which begins with an opening line whose substance is enlarged upon as the movement unfolds. I see charity deplored. I see consciousness abate. I see craziness increase. And it's a build-up to the craziness, the mania, the madness that has seized the world. Two of the first three movements end with questions. And all three have questions in the middle. But the fourth and climactic movement, I see craziness increase, has no questions at all. It is a summation, it is a conclusion. The movement sums up as craziness, the abnormalities, children making children, soil that wouldn't bear, and the horrific events earlier described and implied in the poem. It ends with a dire prediction. Time is running out. As we eat and drink, species at the brink of extinction, and I think no one can deny that the price of progress is high, real high. This final movement is pure statement and declaration of the condition in which we are. And he uses one of his favorite devices here, the internal rhyme. Every word in the internal pattern of rhymes, drink, brink, extinct, and I think, everyone reinforces the doom that he has just pronounced as our condition today. Thank you.
Ken, if you could just get your group, talk to them, get the different members of your group.
Yes,
to give us
yes, yes. So, gentlemen, I don't know what is your response to this, or if you have another take on the poem, or if you want to set me right.
So, Ken, do you think the poem is a warning, or is it does Devine give us a sense of hopelessness for mankind?
Well, there's a whole section of this that goes beyond 10 minutes to explore the question of whether this is a pessimistic, bitter, and demoralized person. And the answer obviously is no. Because if you look at the large number of patriotic poems, I love my country, the large number of poems that are cajoling and begging citizens, come, let us be a citizen army and retard these developments that are about to overwhelm us. If you look at all of that, and if you look at his very specific comments on the role of sexual love, the role of woman, the role of companionship. I think that is why the one about I want somebody to hug me, that is such a wonderful poem, because it is a summation of his belief in the possibilities of love and of proper, healthy, sexual relations between man and woman. But I think ultimately he kind of turns to what was always in him, the music. And one of the poems I like very much for trying to understand where he's coming from, what his philosophy is we are the musicians, and there's just one part of it. I think that Devine saw music, the living pulse, the heartbeat, the drum, the rhythm. He saw these as the only sure salvation in the world. We are the musicians. We are the musicians. We are who write the love songs, the ballads, and the picong. We are who turn it all into gold. We are the messengers with a feast for your soul. We are the musicians. We are the musicians. We are the musicians of the whole wide world. I think against the doom and gloom and impending flood that Devian sees coming, the second flood, music is a sure salvation, natural and instinctive and belonging to everybody, just through the fact of nature, through the living heart that is pulsing.
That was Zeno. Zeno, you had it down at number 3. What do you think now?
He go play down to number 6. Like Zeno going.
Yeah, I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going.
Oh, you're not leaving.
Tony's back. Okay, me and tell him what I put down to number 3. There's two things. One is that in terms of the calypso, world, this is probably the most profound of the end of times, sign of the end of times calypsos, which there are few well.
Yeah.
And that's the topic on Tony. He knows very well that I love the Guardian, because I think the Guardians and is the most frightening piece of nightmarish kind of calypso. And that's why I put Progress down a little bit. But other than that, enough said, because the professor said all already, so I can jump in here now.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to just tag on to that is that, interestingly, the inspiration for Progress was the San Fernando Hill.
Yes.
You know, and it brings and underscores and dramatizes, you know, the ecology, and it ties us into the whole world, because with him seeing the way the hill was quarried and all of that, it moved him to have to speak out on it, you know, so that
In fact, the things work, they work so funny that when I read the line, the mountains will be no longer high.
Yeah.
I see the denuded San Fernando Hill.
And that's exactly what he saw.
Yes.
From there, the song was born.
So he just has a way of lighting up images in your mind, even though he doesn't tell you explicitly that I'm thinking about that. Well, I know he was thinking about that because he said that in one of his interviews.
Yeah.
He was just sitting down there one day and he said, well, this is Progress. And so he went into it. And I don't know if I'm a madman to talk about the pigments of our imagination and fruits of our ambition.
Yeah.
When I read those lines, to see all that rubbish on the shoreline.
Absolutely. And you know, and the funny thing is that, again, we from being from a small island state, you know, I wonder how the root with more exposure, how that would compare, because they talk about, you know, Marvin Gaye is what's going on as one of the greatest songs of the 20th century. But I wonder if they really had a chance to hear and appreciate Progress, how would that rank and, you know, and stand against Marvin Gaye's, you know.
Well, I don't want to quote too many Western influences and so on, but T.S. Eliot said a good thing once, that a poet means more to people living in a society and who share the language of the poet. Because we pick up microtones and micro nuances that a foreigner could never pick up, right? And so I would not blame an outsider for not getting all the juice out of this one or of any West Indian book.
Yeah.
And similarly, they can't blame me for not getting the juice out of their stuff, right? I think that's how it goes. Yeah. We're culturally bound in many ways.
But you know, Professor, you know, like Johnny Kuman noted earlier, if you sat in a class in anywhere in the world and recited what you just recited there, I don't see how anywhere that the profundity and the elegance and the urgency of that song could be missed. There isn't a place in the world
No, I have
or
great,
in any language, and in any language.
I have great faith in professional, highly professional literary criticism that has feelings and has intimacy. Yes, I think you can teach any poem from your culture to people who belong to another culture. But it really is, it's hard. It probably is a lot, well, I know it's a lot easier with my own young people. But when I've done it overseas and I've done Progress and I've done Columbus Lie and all kinds of things, and they respond.
Yeah, absolutely.
And can any of you other guys want to say anything? Zeno, Gabi, well, Zeno, then Omari.
Well,
Gabi.
so I'll just wrap it up and thank you all.
Well, thanks a
He's
lot.
raising his hand.
I just wanted to say something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to say this. It might be a bit controversial, but it's very factual. When Shakespeare was alive, you had kings, queens, princesses, duchesses, dukes, barons, etc., who were all in the eyes of the then public, the big people. And he was just an ordinary person. But today, unless you are a history buff, you do not know who they are. I say that to say this. In time to come, to quote one of Devine's great works and Crazy's great works, Devine will be known in the Caribbean, inclusive of Trinidad, more than Uriah Butler, more than Eric Williams, more than Captain Cipriani, because his work or his works are so profound that they will last the test of time, just like Shakespeare's work has lasted. And, he is too close to his own time for us, the present generation, to truly, truly appreciate how deep this man's mind was and how brilliant his writings are. So we have to give it time, but in time to come, the Trinidad public itself will honor Devine above its political and union leaders and military leaders, because he has done something special for Trinidad and Tobago that none of the leaders could have done. And that is when he starts to write, or when he wrote deep into history 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 years from now.
Thank you very much, Gabi.
I agree with you totally, Gabi, or agree with you 97%, but I still think that we could get people today to see and appreciate the greatness of this writer. I don't
totally
want to wait a whole
brother.
generation.
Last session is where we go from here. Where's the future? So thank you, guys. We are making progress. I mean, so far with our schedule for the night. Thank you again, Ken and the team. And now I want to ask Crazy to come back with River of Tears. Crazy?
This world have so much turmoil and strife, and things to give man horrors in life. So much torment, misery, and pain, all taking toll on the human brain. Is shooting and looting, disputing and revoluting. So now this world and all its affairs, so we drowned in human tears. It's tears of tribulation, tears out of frustration, tears of utility, tears of anxiety. People bawling, teardrops falling, People crying, crying the world a river of tears, river of tears, river of tears, crying the world a river of tears.
Thank you, Crazy. I'm going to give you a round of applause. Thank you very, very much. Gabby, you're the first one up on this one. River of
Yes.
Tears, Gabby.
Look, I just have one thing to say about it. It's a classic. He's talking about the human being. He's talking about our emotions. He's talking about the mistakes that mankind has made and continue to make. And therefore, it causes us pain and tears. And so, again, he goes deep. But I wanted, I don't know, Tony, if it's my time to do so, to show how I feel about Devine in this short poem, because here's what I thought about him. And I said, and it's entitled Winsford Joker Devine. Throughout the history of mankind, there are poets by the ton. One of the most famous ones is the Bible's King Solomon. Come forward 2,000 years or so, you'll find William Shakespeare. In that same space or era, Longfellow will appear. Here in the Caribbean, we can feel justly proud that we have produced Cut Loose, Let Loose, names floating on number 9 cloud, such wordsmiths as Marty, Braffett, and Walcott knew how to paint a picture or unfold a plot. They weaved a web of greatness, told our stories for us. Their writings cannot wither, cannot be silenced like dust. To them we owe a great debt, one which cannot be paid. We bow in prostrate manner. There are rivers, we are a cascade. In recent times, on mountain climbs, we saw men like Marley, Eddie Grant, for them we chant. What world-class artistry. Dennis Williams, known as Merchant, gave us lyrics and melody, wrote with swiftness yet with brilliance. What a poet was he. Gregory Ballantyne is underrated. We call him GB. He too wrote with quick fire speed, most magnificently. Yet, to me, among them all, my opinion matters not. Sheer majestic ink runs deep in a poet the world forgot. Forgot may not be accurate. Let's set another tone. This super brilliant wordsmith king is practically unknown outside of the fraternity of artists and broadcasters, journalists and publicists. He's almost an entity. I could see him smiling now, his band sticks in tow. He looked more like your friend, the stevedore, than the greatest writer I know. A man of tremendous stature, moving fast all the time. Get him to slow down a little bit, then see how rhyme became rhyme. Seemingly never thinking or thinking too fast for me. This stevedore turns into a poet, the likes of which I never did see. Not only with words that smoothly fit, but with story and subject, melodies, sweet melodies. It gifted us a honeybee kit. No writer I know can be so swift and classy at the same time. Like I said before, give him the golden door. He's the king of the line and the rhyme. If a symphony orchestra were to arrange and play his magnificent musicality, is then we will really hear what treasures he has left us. Oh, what a human being. Sleep peacefully, pure genius. Farewell, Joker Devine.
Thank you very much, Gabby. And I suppose it's really relevant to the river of tears that so many of us shed as we went along. And it is something I'd like you to pass on to his family. Now I will help you get it to them. Anybody else with any further comments on River of Tears, please?
Just to ride my little hobby horse a bit, that I see a part of him really as an Old Testament figure and a prophet and so on. And I cannot help reading this poem, River of Tears. I cannot help imagining that he is almost asking for a second flood so we can start all over again.
Omari, any thoughts on that? Zeno, yeah.
Well, I always, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, the music, the sweetness of that calypso is amazing. And I suspect Baron helped to make it even sweeter. That melody is just, it's happy and it's painful at the same time.
Yep.
The sweetness of the melody belies the bitterness of the theme and of the lyrics. Kind of remind me of Temptation singing Ball of Confusion. The way he runs that those lines down, those short staccato kind of lines to make the point. But
So
that is
Zeno, you all could go into this and talk. What is it that makes the music sweet?
well, them fellas in the calypso business, they say a good calypso is a good calypso. You feel it in your bones. And when you hear the river of tears, I can't explain that, you know. There are calypsos which just, you realize that the melodies are so sweet. It's like a kind of saccharine, honey. Okay, I want to say that it probably helped by Byron's sweet voice and the way he delivers in that way. But I think there are some songs that, I mean, no, that
But can you
doesn't.
use instrumentation to help to convey the sweetness?
Yes, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't make it a better calypso than a chocdos or a stallion, because calypso is that kind of thing that could be rough up sometimes. But this one, and like some other calypsos in history, the melody is so sweet and so lyrical, and you know, you're singing along, it's rivers of tears, and don't realize that there's blood in the river. You're not seeing the blood because the music is sweet. That is it.
Anybody else with any comments, please?
I would just add that I'm not sure who is the arranger on this. I don't know. Crazy, you know who arranges? Is this Leston?
Yeah, Leston, Paul, Leston.
Right. And I don't know if it was noted already, but I think just as there was a magic between Devines and Sparrow, there's a magic with Devines and Leston, where I find that Leston somehow captures the musical side of the work, and there's a magic that happens there. No, music is funny, music is theory, and you can do this and that, but music is also vibes, right? Music, sometimes you start a song with one arranger and you're getting what you want for some reason, and you go with the same song by somebody else, and magically they start to put this thing into it. And I think, as was mentioned earlier, that juxtaposition between the sweetness of the melody and the music of the song, but then how the dreadness of the lyrics is something I think an arranger like Leston would put his magic to and almost complete the picture, you know. Standing on his own, the lyrics are powerful. By himself, Baron is a unparalleled singer, but you bring them together with Leston Paul, and I think, you know, only magic could happen after that.
So I think now we're very far from the old position that a calypsonian is not a calypsonian unless he writes his own music and so on, and compose his own songs.
Well, I don't know how far we are from that, because people will have their opinions, right? Some people will argue that you must write to be a calypsonian. Some people will say, well, that is true. If you bring the work to life, you're just as much as a calypsonian as the next person, you know, and everybody will bring their arguments to that. I don't too much like to get into that, because I like good music, and I am too sure that I would write off good music because somebody write it. You know what I mean? I want at the end of the day, as in another life, I am a producer myself, you know, work with all different artists. And one of the things I always tell artists when they're in the studio with me is I am a slave to the song. And by that, I simply mean whatever is best to bring it out is what is to be done. So whether the person who writes it, singing it, or somebody else who may be able to deliver it better, you have to be a slave to the song. And I think this whole discussion about divines proves that some of the best songs, some of the best kaisos and calypsos have been done this way. You know, you could argue who is authentic this and who is real. That I not too concerned with that. I am concerned with excellent work, and I can assure you that the work that we're examining here is excellent. You know.
Mm-hmm. So Crazy, you would know, I suppose, how much of his own music did Devine write? I mean, did he write it to the point where he could tell somebody who was looking at, no, that is not how it have to go. This is how it have to go.
When Devine got his stroke, he had a stroke in two strokes in 1998. He called me. You know, I was singing 28 years before, and he said, Crazy, I can't play my guitar again. I cannot make melodies. I would like you to start doing my melodies. He used to send the lyrics to me, and I used to put the music to all the songs. You know, I used to compose his melodies for him. But he was the poet. He used to write all the words. And sometimes he will tell me, because when somebody come by him for a song, they had to come to me for the finished product. And sometimes he used to tell me when you go by Leston, or sometimes when he write lyrics and he call me, say, Crazy, I want this song to go like in a zouk. You know, he will tell me. Plus he send his templates to me. He sent the templates that he used to compose his songs on. He give that to me before he died and tell me to compose melodies in that format. So that is what I do for all his songs. Because we have things next year. Next year, please God, he leave things with me to give to other singers, you know. Say, give this one, that. Look, Sandra was going to sing God in Black. And look at you, Sandra, love you so sick, Crazy, don't give nobody that song here. So Devines have more things to come. It come like Derek Walcott, decomposing but still composing, you know. So
Thanks
you
a lot,
tell
Crazy.
me what to tell you. All right. Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Our next one is Philip, my dear. But before Crazy sings his piece, let me bring on Victor Edwards. Victor?
Well, thank you very much, Tony. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation focuses on the Calypso, Philip, my dear, written by Winston Devine and sung by Sparrow. What I've been asked to do is to look at the theatricality of the Calypso. My presentation, however, is divided into 3 segments. They're called 1, the incident, 2, the Calypso, and 3, the theater. So first of all, the incident. In 1982, Michael Fagan breaches the security at Buckingham Palace twice. First in June and then in July, on July the 9th for a second time, loaded with brew. He was out drinking. Scales the 14-foot wall, very much like Sparrow's Mad Woman in the Governor's Ball, went up a drain pipe and wandered into the Queen's bedroom. The alarm that went off was silenced because the guards thought it was faulty. The Queen woke up when Fagan disturbed the curtain. He proceeded to sit on the edge of the bed. They spoke for about 10 minutes, and then he was subsequently removed by 2 policemen who were on palace duty. Since, however, the act was a civil wrong, he was committed to psychiatric evaluation, or so the story goes. And then this man called Winston Devines, who attempted to immortalize the incident in Calypso, added some golden ray. You know, the good Creole flavor, the real Creole flavor, knowing that the audience that he had to reach liked Picong, Kanka, Lacore, Janjat, and Couture. And that stance, social stance, is diametrically different to the stiff upper lip and the boring cabbage and broiled meat diet of the English, whose narrative must be maintained. It is this narrative of superiority, of civilization, think about the football just recently, of kingdom, of myth, of a big lie that is being deconstructed through the elements of double entendre and intertextuality, ridicule, criticism, and satire. The text of the Calypso is ribald and risque and mocks the moral and royal exemplars and reduces them to normal human beings having the same primal desires and urges. It is the irony of plundering by the empire and plundering of empire. The Calypso is at once a confession, things that she alone could know, that is the queen, and it's also a celebration, things she alone knows she enjoys. In fact, the Calypso breaches the hymen of the myth of high culture. It is both painful and enjoyable. She liked it. She's embarrassed by it, and she's afraid to admit to her husband how much she liked it. The event becomes tangled with fiction, legend, and enshrined in art. That was the Calypso, the theater. Exploring the theatricality of the event, the staging possibilities, leads to investigative research of the actual situation and an interpretation of situational possibilities. What was Fagan's preoccupation with the palace? It was his second break-in. The Calypso asked, where did you go? Working for good old England, missing out on all the action. Was it possible that Philip was having an affair with Fagan's wife and Fagan knew it? Was Fagan preoccupied with the palace in his search for revenge? So we juxtaposing their relationships to create a narrative. What is Philip saying to Fagan's wife? And I chose Iowa George's, I fed up at the same thing over and over, meaning that the thing that he's fed up of is this missionary position. The focal idea here is to create the story of classism. The white planter coming home drunk and instead of heading to his wife, goes to the slave quarters for some action. And the reverse, the irony that the same thing is happening with aristocratic deprived women, as in D.H. Lawrence's Lady Chatterley's Lover, high-class women and their gardeners. At the palace, we find the queen looking through the window in hope that Philip will come to her. Remember, his visit was long overdue. She's frustrated and she sings those, you're looking for horn, plenty, plenty horn, boy. The maid enters and begins to dress the queen as a Dame Lorraine. Normally a black woman playing a white woman playing a black woman. Here it is different with the white woman endowing herself with her lacking attributes that she assumes the other woman has or possesses. The maid in turn dresses as a neg-jardin. They pretend to play the whole lust-filled scene. In turn, Jukes, walk it up for me, and Destra's, I looser than Lucy. Remember, Philip's input was overdue, and she needed satisfaction. Meantime, outside, Fagan jumps the wall. The palace guards are playing and singing, London Bridge is falling down. They see Fagan, and a big kung fu kick-up takes place. Carl Douglas's Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting. He beats them all and heads for the drain pipe leading to the window to the queen's bedroom. In the act of their lustful lovemaking, Fagan appears through the window. The queen's mind is so muddled with sexual lust that she hallucinates. The maid runs away. The queen, overcome with desire, runs towards Fagan singing Nadia Batson's So Long I Ain't See You, Give Me a Wine. She corners him and her sexual strength allows her to undress him. When she sees the tool made for agriculture, she gasps. And Fagan sings Sparrow, Lion, and Donkey. She jumps on the bed and commands him to come with her index finger. Fagan by now is turned on. he in turn asks the queen in song, using patches, how much inches of pipe you want? How much inches of pipe? She responds with Onika Bostick's, all is yours. If you want to rough me up. And she took him, not him, her. Took her is biblical and is not a missight, not like Sukhdev's donkey from a brighter sun that couldn't see good, but a good, satisfying sexual rendezvous that was long overdue. And I took him for, or I took him in place of you. So finished, she sings Tom Jones's It's Not Unusual to Have Fun with Anyone, and then reverts to her stiff upper lip self, gains recognition, is not horrified, but must save face. She dresses hurriedly, calls the guards. Fagan disappears through the window. She sings laughingly. Sundar proposes, oh, my lover, you leave me and you're gone. Next morning, Philip appears having heard about the intrusion and feigns interest. She sings, I take on Roaring Lions, where were you last night, Caroline? Where you went last night, Philip, dear? Where you went last night, darling Philip? Last night, in my boudoir, a nice thing happened in there. Where you went last night, Philip, my dear? She then concocts a story of the intrusion, but becomes sexually motivated during the telling. Then she breaks into common explicit language of the rendezvous. She actually sings verse and chorus, as Crazy, the lovable lunatic, will now sing.
Philip, my dear, last night I thought it was you in here. Where did you go? Working for good old England, missing out all the action. My dear, do you know? There was a man in my bedroom wearing your shoe, trying on your royal costume, dipping in your royal perfume. I'm telling you true. There was a man in my bedroom, and just for a rendezvous, and I thought it was you. He big just like you, but younger. He thick just like you, but stronger. He linger like you, but harder. He lily like you, but badder. There was a man in my bedroom. He came on the bed, doo-doo, and I took him for you.
Victor, all yours.
That was my take on staging Philip, my dear, using, of course, taking a lead from Joker and using several calypsos to tell the story. Of course, this is an incomplete effort in the sense that we just had a few minutes to do this. There's so much more that could be done with it if we really think about it and we focus on the work with a little more detail. But I'm opening up the floor for comments from Dawad, Zeno, Gabi, Omari, anyone. Ken.
To me, it's almost like the script to a play. I love it. It's very descriptive. It's very vivid. And it almost like a story that someone wrote and not actually a song or a comment on a song. This is like a play. This could be any play of the highest standard. And I congratulate you on your creativity on this song. And I like the fact of how you were inclusive of so many well-known Trinidadian songs to paint the picture that you wanted to paint. So I congratulate you on this. It was to my mind magnificent.
Thank you very much, Gabi. I look at the calypso. Remember, the calypso is really a confession. The thing happens and she confesses after it happens. So there's a whole lot of things that happened before, and those are some of the things that I was trying to capture in trying to look at the theatricality of everything. Yes, Dawad, I see your mic off.
Well, I wanted to take the role.
Sorry, I think
the casting director.
Hi, Edison.
Yes, as the casting director, because you know one of the things that a lot of people don't know about Gabby is that Gabby comes out of theater. Gabby used to be with my dear friend Paul Webster back in the Restoration Theater days, you know. And
Yes, in New York.
so
Yes.
Gabby has major stage creds, you know. See Gabby getting into the palace if you're looking for.
No doubt.
But awesome, man, awesome. But you see, and that's the possibilities that different people. It's the interpretive spirit of the creative mind. You know, as a theater person, the treatment that you bring to it, or as a musician would bring in terms of let's say a jazz musician would take the same song and give it a whole that from the musical end of things, create a whole nother kind of thing. As Gabby pointed out, that symphonic treatment of the melody, you know. An artist could paint it because it's so visual, you know. So that's when you know it's right. You know that when the yeast in it has given rise to real value in a work of art. And that's
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dawad.
Yeah, I'm sure Zeno would have several other calypsos that he would want to recommend. Which one in place of some of those that I may have suggested here, you know? And listen, Zeno is a theater man too, so.
Yeah.
So Victor, it would be more of a musical.
Well, that's it. It shapes itself into that already.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't see it happening no other way. And then there's so, you know, as I see so many cultural elements, you know, cultural forms that we could use. I mean, the thing is that it's not exhaustive. First of all, you told me I had 5 minutes and then I got 8 and I had to try to fit. And Tony called me today and I told Tony, boy, look, I sit down with this thing here and I'm trying to cut so that it will fit so I wouldn't overrun the time and so on and so on and so on, you know? So there's a lot of possibilities here still.
Yeah, well.
Yes, Zeno?
Yes, me. Well, there's two things. Just two things about this. As regards the plating, my comment is here. People are still using it.
Well, not if you have here like you and me, you know.
And the other thing is, what I always liked about that calypso was the fact that in the reality, the man reached on the grounds in the Vince story, now a play, the man reached in the bedroom. They call a piece of fiction fit for a script. So Victor make a skip it already. I can't say nothing else.
Well, that is grounds for divorce and grounds to end this. I think I really want to go on to the next one, and thank you very much, guys. The next one is really St. Peter's Day, which was sung by Francine. And it's our final calypso for the night, and Francine is not in the best of health. And I think we all want to wish her well. I hope she could put some wheels on her heels and come out of the hospital quick, you know. And with no further ado, let me have Crazy with St. Peter Say. Crazy?
I'm in my head, Francine want to dead. Rum in my head, Francine want to dead. Then I fall asleep and just started to dream I was dead. I found myself in a strange land. There I was, right inside the gates of heaven. Suddenly I heard 1,000 voices around me. They began to sing to me. This is what they told me. They say, St. Peter say, we go break away for the carnival. We go jump and sway. We come into just panorama. We come into just the calypso. We come in to let them know this year is upset for so. Take note of this. We have long notice. Everyone complain for this carnival insists. St. Peter say, we go break away for the carnival. That's Francine, and I wish her all the best. I pray for her all the time. I wanted to come out of that hospital. Yes, and remember when she said, take note of this, we have long noticed. Everyone complained for the carnival this year, we insist. There'll be no unfairness. There'll be peace. There'll be love and togetherness. Make it known to all arrangers and calypsonians. We advise a change in plan for these competitions. All pan tuners and composers, all the men who make masks, whatever, St. Peter say. And,
Thank you. The word, all yours now.
Okay, well, it's the song, Bellyful. We grew up eating Bellyful. The Bellyful was made from all the ends of the baker's ends that were put together, and to me, this is Joker's Bellyful, because the song thematically is not anything that we haven't heard, from Bummer's Dream. I was dreaming, the dream sequence and the dream as device, how we bounce up Spoiler and Spoiler tell him and la-di-da. Or even Walcott's Return of the Spoiler, from which the line decomposing but composing still comes from. Or Stalin when he says play one, but using all of this, what I think is the point that is underscored in this particular song, having used all the elements of the carnival and the CDC and those who govern the carnival and whatever the shortcomings are, and that we need divine intervention to save this carnival for us. The thing that stands out with this song is the creator, the composer, customizing art around the performer. It was mentioned earlier about when in the segment where we talked about River of Tears, the tripod of Baron, Leston, and Joker. It is the perfect amalgamation, to create the best possible end result. This song, when you listen to St. Peter say, it has Francine written all over it. And Crazy, being a calypsonian, and Gabby for sure, could tell us about that, because a singer could write a song and say, I had this in mind for you. In other words, so now the writer becomes the diviner of persona where work is concerned. I don't think Baron necessarily had to go and tell Joker what the song he wants. Joker understood the persona of Baron, what his voice is, his energy. Similarly here with Francine, because when you listen to it, Francine, the range of Francine's voice, how it moves with that music, with the melody, and then the koto. And that's one of the things we talked about Leston, but the koto with Sparrow and Joker was equally as potent a force, because when you listen to that music, whether it is Sparrow singing the statue or anything, and you listen to the driving force of that music, and it comes across, and to me, it is the thing that is brilliantly captured best in this song, how the music of the time too, because St. Peter say when you listen to it, it comes across with very much the spirit of the popular songs of the period, the driving carnival vibe and that kind of thing. So for me, it is about groove and how the same arrangements and everything comes to the fore through Joker writing a song for a particular singer. And that happens a lot. You saw it a lot with Joker and his compositions for King Austin. Similarly, I don't know how much other works he would have written for Francine. He did about 4 songs, I'm sure. But this particular song captures the chemistry between the artist, the writer, and the arranger.
Any other comments?
Well, yes, I would say that some writers can almost feel that singer. Now, a song like In Time to Come that Crazy did, I can't see Baron doing that song successfully because it is almost perfect for Crazy's character, for his charisma, for the way how Crazy delivers, the wit and humor that is Crazy. It just couldn't sit with Baron in my opinion. And so that's what makes Joker so great. Now, I was fortunate enough to have written for more than 100 other artists here in Barbados. And there's no way that the song that I wrote for Rasili, I would give to Griner or vice versa, or a guy called Carew, or Young Blood, or Biggie Ivy, or something like that, or Alison Hines. The song I will give to Alison Hines, I will never, the character, the charisma, the energy that they put out, it is so different. And I believe Joker saw that in all the artists that he wrote for. So I wasn't present when he wrote that song. When he's finished writing that song, in his mind's eye, he can see which singer would do justice to this piece of work. And in this song, St. Peter says, to me, Francine was almost perfect, the artist, to do justice to such a great song.
Thanks, Gabby. Any of the other guys, please?
Listen, that is one of the most interesting points about the way Devine operated with his thing. But it's very similar to in the days of Shakespeare, and he had his company, and he's writing a play. He would look at this actor and that actor and say, I'm writing this for him, and I'm writing that for him. That seemed to be a kind of synergy that produces great work. But no doubt, the presence of that actor there would have inspired Shakespeare to write in a certain way. And I don't know if it works in the case of Devine, whether the fact that he was singing for Sparrow and Sparrow was consulting with him would have led him to go back to the script and change it. So there's an input here from Sparrow into the script. I don't know if that was mutual between the partners.
Anybody?
Does anybody know?
2 days before he died. 2 days before he died, because every morning he used to call me at 4 o'clock. And he sent me these lyrics to tell me to sing to people. He's singing about his death here. You know, I just sing a little piece. I just write it. Yes. I have to go and do this song here. Yeah, this is Joker here. He's singing about his death here. Yeah, these lyrics, right? I just put the melody. Here we sing. The moment is fast approaching, maybe the end of the line. No time again for reproaching. This morning I saw the sign. An angel on a big white horse was standing in front of my gate. And without any further discourse, I entered my final stage. I can feel it in my bones, something I cannot defend. A bell toll in scary tones, telling me this is the end. This is it, this is it, the final curtain. This is it, the the end is certain. He said, this is it, this is it. The closing chapter, David said, this is it, eternal rapture. I am going to meet my maker. It is right around the bend. Finally, I will get some closure. The longest rope has an end. So this is it, crazy, this is it, this is it, yeah. This is it, this is it, this is it, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Crazy. And I think this is the best way now to go on to the final and the future chapter. As he asked the question, who will guard the guards and where do we go from here? So I want to start the discussion now on Joker's legacy. Where do we go from here? What has he left? And Gabby, you want to open it and then pass it along to the other guys to give their point? Joker's legacy, where do we go from here?
It's going to come naturally. Why? Because he is so great an artist that it's almost like a tree that has its roots underneath. And we can't see the roots, but we know they are alive and well. And then one day we see this tree emerge. And our minds don't always go to the root. We go to the fruit and the branches and the limbs and leaves and all of that. In Joker's case, he has already given us the roots that are strong and vibrant and healthy. So all we need to do is to pick the fruits and pass them around. And when I say that, I mean let the radio stations play his work. Let his works be in the schools. Let his works be in theatrical productions. Let his works be manifested in such a wide manner that we could never say Joker is gone, because Joker is not gone. Joker could never be gone. His physical is gone, but the spirituality, the creativity, the icon that is Joker lives on in our hearts forever.
But in terms of legacy, what I would really like to see is a new edition of Joker's poems. You get the exact and correct words as composed by Joker. You put these in chronological order, and you make sure there are no mistakes. And that book would be the messenger. That book will contain Joker, and we could pass them on to the children and their children's children, a generation.
It can't be a book. It has to be books, because the amount of work that he has done, it cannot hold in a book. It has to be volume 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, because
whatever.
People keep saying Joker wrote 500 songs, and I dispute that. Joker showed me more than 1,500 songs. Joker ain't right. They probably meant 500 songs that were published or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure his wife and his children, and he told me that his son was doing a lot of stuff for him, because after he couldn't play the guitar, as Crazy said, he would pick out the melodies and the different things on a keyboard that he had there, right? And he showed it, and he said, look, Gabby, man, half of the stuff that I have written has not seen the public's eye. And I truly believe, and not only Joker wrote songs, Joker, because he's so melodic. He could write pop, he could write reggae, he could write anything. So we got the chance to see some of his calypso works. And not only that, look at the I don't know, the creativity of this man. He looks at melody, he looks at lyrics, he looks at rhyme on rhyme line, melodic flow, freshness, attack. He puts it all together, and in quick time like that, right? So it means we don't like to use these words because we believe sometimes we use them or lose them too lightly. Joker was a genius.
Anybody else? Any? We're looking at the future. Where do we go from here? What's the legacy of Joker? Anybody else in the group, please?
Well, listen, I have some things that he leave with me to do. I am the only person that he leave things with. So next year you'll be hearing some of these things, and the year after, we have a few years because I will have to keep his legacy going because he leaves some things with me. Look, next year we have like 3 or 4 big songs, and we have 2 songs just before he died. We have 2 recorded songs, which is Philanthropy, a classic. Some people put it in the same class like Progress. Some people say the same vein. Progress was the greatest in 2020, the last century. But this one might be the great Philanthropy. And then we have Eternal Love. Eternal Love is a song that he love. When I carry it, he say, crazy, oh God, I love this song. So I have them. He have a lot of his books coming up again. I did all this.
Right, well, that's great. But what about the other members of the panel? Let me hear your views, please. What's the legacy that we're looking at?
I feel Tony watching at me. I think one of the things is that the Veins unmask the Calypso Ghost, so that that code that existed for years and years and years, that a Calypsonian borrow, buy, whatever else a Calypso, but he will insist it's his own. So there are thousands of records in the reservoir that says that says jump in the line, and then underneath that they have the singer's name. I said the singer is the writer. I think that the Vince legacy would be that ghost is now unmasked. You could see them in the open. I think, although I think Merchant started that very early, that you used to see Merchant's name on the record as opposed to Rocky McCullin and Peggy Joseph and Maestro and so on. But that would be one of his legacies, that when we look at Calypso, we recognize that there's a writer, and not necessarily the person who sings it is the writer. So despite the fact that the problem with that, in that argument, has always been there's a competition. If there were no competition, we wouldn't care less who write and who sing. But it's who to beat who. And I think that the Vince on mass here, that people now get to realize, oh, there's a writer behind all them songs. Then we would see that a greater acceptance of a songwriter, a composer in the Calypso business. And I think more singers would be, and it started happening already, would be accepting that they could accept that this song was not written by me. Given the writer credit. Calypsonians still don't do that in some cases. And some of them still adhere to the code. They will not ever say they write a song for somebody until, of course, somebody come up and they might have a little fame. So that's my take on the legacy.
Well, in all of these things, you have to have backup legislation. There has to be legislation about royalties and copyright and so on. That if I sell you a song, if I sell you a script, right, a composition of mine, and you're going to sing it, there has to be some limits about the use you can make of it. And there has to be a stipulation about what I, the writer, am getting out of it. But at the moment, I feel it's a jungle, and it's so undefined that a good writer will make virtually nothing.
But he's supposed to mind his own business as a writer.
Our copyright laws are fairly robust, and the protection is there. Like most of our legislation, the problem comes with enforcement. So the framework is there for the protection. Enforcement is always the thing. When I was young and still an active artist, I used to have people offering me my songs, literally saying, hey, look here, you know, I have you here on the CD, on the side of the road, selling me my own music, right? And that is how rampant and blatant it is. And so if there's no will to protect, to physically, because somebody has to go there. I remember there was an incident some years ago where Ella and Del went out into the streets and started to seize stuff, you know. But in this time, we can't take them chances with the kind of the different kind of people we have in the world now. So there has to be some kind of enforcement of that. That aside, what I would like to say about Joker's legacy is that I would like to see a policy set in place for when we have people the ilk of Joker, that we don't have to wonder what has to be done. It is almost as if we treat this thing like it's a discovery, and I'm talking about us as a nation, where we could say, well, listen, these people have contributed X amount, and this is how we will protect that. This is how we will preserve it. This is how we will ensure that it's taught in schools. And it has to be a policy rather than every time this comes up, you have to now say, what we going to do for so, how we will treat with so. And it leaves a lot of room for things to slip through the cracks. We have to stand as a kind of force that pushes forward. I mean, this kind of work, why, I mean, there's no logical reason why progress is not part of a school curriculum. There's no logical reason why Guardians is not part, none.
None whatsoever.
And,
my brother,
so
if I may interject here, I hear people always say about somebody buy a song. Very few songwriters sell songs. They might give you limited usage of that song, but they don't sell. To sell something means that you are no longer the owner. So I don't know any writers who do that. And so a lot of songs that Joker did, I remember many times in especially in the 90s, people would sing some of Joker's works and so on. I hear people saying, "What Joker selling that? You know, Joker selling that Joker ain't sell nothing. That thing belongs to Joker and his family." So therefore, all I'm saying, and sometimes some singers, I don't know what it was inside of there, but some of them in all the Calypso islands that I know, whether it be Trinidad, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, Barbados, wherever, the singer, for some reason, did not want it revealed who wrote the song. And sometimes they went so far as to not put the writer's name on in the credits. They would just see the singer name appear. I might see arranged by just a person, but the composer was not there. And a lot of songs went out like that, unfortunately. However, I know Joker writing down every single thing that he wrote because he knew exactly every single song that he wrote. So therefore, it is for his legacy, we have to salvage, if for lack of a better term, all of that work. Put it in one place. I don't know if the library, I don't know if the court, I don't know how it's done in Trinidad. But all I know is that we cannot let his work be just here and there and everywhere. It has to be kept in a safe place, right? And I would add this, that I know that whenever it's finished and his legacy, if we're going to talk about his legacy, we have to do it in the right and proper manner so that there can be no doubts as to who wrote what. And I repeat myself, then we would see truly what a genius Joker was or is.
The what?
Yeah, you know, I was trying to remember the person's name, but the thing about this legacy story, and one of the things we need to really also credit Joker before is how he won the rights to his music, how he won back the rights to his music. And you'd have to see it in the context of the times. When Joker was writing those songs, that those copybooks that were bought outright by the 10 producers, Sill and other people, and Sparrow would just take that. And people like Blakey and Sparrow, and they were also could manage themselves in any kind of bad situation. And they were not generous enough to say, well, Joker, write this song for me. So I was trying to think of the person's name who, after all these years of maltreatment by how many Calypsonians, and the person named, a fellow named Bolong. And Joker says in the progress of Joker Divine, that Bolong carry him up by Sparrow and Blakey and tell each of them, give this man the copyright for his songs, sign this paper. And it's because whoever Bolong had enough fear instilled in those fellas for them to turn around and quickly sign it, that these songs were in fact belonging to Joker Divine. But it wasn't an easy thing. People, you were just expected that somebody come and take your song and sing it and claim this and claim that about it. But perhaps we also need some bad men still around us force these things, because it's still, for all the enforcement, Omari, that you speak about, it's still, still a prevalent situation. I know a couple of people who Stalin wrote songs for. You could kill them dead, say nice Stalin. But in terms of legacy, I would like to see a Hall of Fame, a Songwriters Hall of Fame, perhaps. That's one of the things I would like to see, perhaps the trail that leads up to San Fernando Hill. I know Victor don't like this talk about street naming, I think, but because of progress, I would see the trail that leads to the top of San Fernando Hill called the Winsford Divine Trail, because that would give it a legacy, a lasting legacy, as a song that was inspired by this hill.
I want to ask you something, though, now, and I asked Gabby as well. In our Calypso contest, we have the prize for the winner and second and things. What about if there was a prize, and deliberately so, for the composer of that song, the winning and the top 5 songs or whatever, as part of the Calypso Monarch competition?
Absolutely. I would answer this by referencing my involvement as a carnival designer. You see these big costumes crossing the stage, and unless your name is really in the top echelon of the carnival designers, mention your name. But that stopped, and then raising enough noise, even though they still do it with some kind of arbitrary kind of responsibility. But that when you win a king of the bands or you win a queen of the bands, they talk about the masquerader, who built the costume, and importantly, who designed the costume. And similarly, as a template, that could easily carry over into the song. There was a situation with Alan and Denise Plummer when she won the crown, and that had to happen. A lot of times singers go out there, sing Mystic Prowler, they go out and you sing other people's, you sing songs composed for you, but you don't give credit, and particularly to compensate. That's where the thing goes. It doesn't take anything to say, look, Crazy writer song for the one. You know, why would that lessen, you know, anything? And if I win, make sure that you compensate the man, show him a sense of gratitude. But that is about ego, and those are issues we still have to grow into, you know, to be more magnanimous in the things that we do.
But I do like that practical suggestion that there should be a prize for the composer of the winning song. And that should happen, you know, on a national scale when you have the big competition. There's a prize there.
Lessons that we could take away from Joker's life in those regards, you know, and yeah.
But the point is, the point is here right now is that Joker benefits nothing from all of that. All the things we're talking about, giving prizes and so on and so on. And what we're talking about is creating a kind of legacy. And I don't believe that a legacy is to be stored away. There's a collection that you keep safe, the work that was done. But art is living and moving and breathes and has a life of its own. And if we pack it away on a shelf somewhere, then we kill it as well. The point is that if you have to have a legacy for anybody in the arts, anybody who has contributed naturally, we must have their art being represented as a living, breathing organism. How can we create a legacy for Joker that is alive and that can continue to live for as long as it will live? That to me is absolutely important. The people who will know is like doing a thesis, and you print your thesis and you put it in a university, and the only people who go and see, might visit your thesis is the people who have an interest in that. Nobody else. So 4, 5, 10, 12 people might read that. But that is not what we want in terms of creating a legacy. Legacies must be, you know, subsumed and be a part of the entire world community, in the entire community in which we exist, in the entire community in which the artists grew and did his work and so on. So we have to find a way to do that. And we really have to bounce our heads together, you know, people like Dawad and myself who live in South, and Zeno. Zeno has been doing a tremendous amount of work getting
absolutely.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But in terms of keeping the work alive, what are some of the things that we can do actively?
Yeah.
To work, you know, there and keep getting it into the generations of young people so that they can believe in themselves too, you know. That's the thing, you know, that we have people here, as Gabi said, you know, it's of international, the things that we do here is international standards. And yet we keep having young people looking outward all the time for validation. When if we promote our own art and artists and the work that they do in a really substantial way, then they will find validation here and begin to believe more in themselves and produce more of their own work and so on. You know, been my argument for so long, you know, and I think that's what we have to do for Joker.
And also on the levels, I mean, beginning from primary to even tertiary.
Yes.
You know, at those levels, you quantify and just
so
what.
Victor, can Friends of Mr. Biswas begin this work by forming a committee to make recommendations about the legacy?
Who we making this recommendation?
Well, exactly. I was going to
the government. You know my argument, Ken. You know my argument is that government hates artists because artists are people who.
Well, when we come up with the recommendations, if the government don't want to take it, we will go out to the society and raise funds to do it.
But Ken, one of the things. Can I add something here? one of the interesting things is the level to which prophets, particularly in Trinidad, don't have much in their own country. And more than that, and not more than that, the extent to which other countries, I mean, we have with us His Excellency, Dr. the Most Honorable Anthony Gabby Carter. He's got all kinds of awards from his country. UWI is the only one that has looked at Calypsonians in a slightly different light. And there are a lot of other people who are not Calypsonians who are also deserve some kind of something, recognition for what they do in Trinidad, for what they've contributed to Trinidad and Tobago.
Tony, I want to respectfully interject right there, please. UWI is not the only people doing it. UTT is doing its own its own legacy building, and it is not a minor one. It is a formidable thing going on. I think across the academic landscape in Trinidad that is happening. It's happening at UWI, but it's happening at UTT in very tangible ways. The music academy at UTT is, to me, the best in the whole Caribbean, in the English-speaking Caribbean. Nothing like Cuba or anything like that. But those things we also need to make clear. And what happens with what Victor is saying is that, and Professor Ramchan is saying, is that when we bring our minds together, that hopefully we create a vision that could be used as the combustion to move this legacy story forward.
Thank you. Folks, I think we need to just, let me thank you all. We have, I want to first of all just thank the NALIS team, Debbie, Charmaine, Ms. Holder, Ms. Glasgow, Mr. Sedsham, Keegan Thompson, Jason McCano, UWI, the prof, the principal, and Nicole Huggins Duco, the Friends of Mr. Biswas, who are Ken in particular, all of you guys who participated, Zeno, Victor, Omari, Crazy, of course, Dawad, and the Most Honorable. I want to thank Teresa, Devine, and Alice, who wanted to be here, but something came up, they couldn't do it. And all of you who've listened, looked on, enjoyed it, a few who wanted to make some comments. Unfortunately, it couldn't work like that tonight. But I think what we've done is a first, in a sense, for looking really very closely at the work of one of our people and seeing beyond it, seeing beyond the calypso only, and seeing what he tried to say, what it meant. Where we go from here is there's a layup coming up, a lanyap coming up. I want to, now that I've thanked you all, what I'm going to do is hand over the stage to Crazy, who has some time, 15 minutes, to sing a few of the old and new songs of Joker. Crazy, all yours.
Well, this is a few years. Just 3 weeks ago, this song was released. Joker and myself composed this song on the telephone. You know, I was just la-line melodies and he was putting words. And I think it's a future classic from decomposing and still composing. The name of it is Eternal Love. Listen, let's stand Paul. Listen to this. A classic in
this song is for everyone.
It's for everyone. It's for country and also people who love their wife. Hear me? You and I were meant to be for an eternity. Moon and stars in unity until forever be. Souls and shadows of the night. By basking in the moonlight, spirits of the earth's twilight, forever burning bright. I will never make you cry. I will never say goodbye. When the road is rough and the going's tough, I'll be standing there beside you. I will never let you down. You will always bear my crown. When something goes wrong or the night is long, I'll be here singing your song, singing your song. Hey! Yeah, you gotta love your country. You gotta love your wife. Yeah. You can play this on a wedding day. Yeah, me. Hold my hands, never let go. Just let the feelings flow. It's time you begin to know. Oh, how I love you so. Travel us through time and space. In the heavens above, angels of a human race, sharing eternal love. I will always be your king. You will always be my queen. In the what has been and the in between, I'll be there to say I love you. To say I love you. Side by side and hand in hand. I will help you understand. Between you and I, as the years go by, memories shall be golden, shall be golden. Hey! Music by Lester Paul. Then a month ago, yeah, genius. It's a new wave type of calypso. Yeah, that? Trying to bring youth into the calypso. The youth going more to the soca, but this is calypso new style. We're going again. I will always be your king. You will always be my queen. In the what has been and the in between, I'll be there to say I love you. To say I love you. Side by side into another, into my arms forever. Squeeze me forever. Kiss me all over. Love you with all my heart. I know we'll never part. You are the one for me until eternity. This is the genius Lester Paul. Lyrics by Winsford Joker, Dr. Winsford Joker Divis, and the melody by Crazy. And this is the final one that we wrote this one on the telephone. The name of this one is Philanthropy. As bad as the world is, as bad as things go in the world, there is still some loving. You know, listen to this classic again. Lyrics by Winsford Divis, just to show, oh, this man was a genius. There you go. Philanthropy. Listen to lyrics. Listen to lyrics. This is it. New Wave Kaiso. Yeah, this one. Dancing like this. See? Never dancing. As bad as the world is, makes back say, there is still some loving. Yeah, this one. Within this life, corruption and strife have superseded righteousness and truth. Prophets of doom paint pictures of gloom, pronouncing man an absolute brute. But as I go my way, I see things every day that gives me hope and courage to see. Chorus time. Though it is cold out in the world, there is still some loving, there is still some goodness. When I see the average man taking time to understand and console the handicapped and the old, I know there is still some loving, there is still some goodness. in his soul. When I see the glory of father's pride and mother's love, witness a genuine romance unfold, I know there is still some loving, there is still some goodness, still some loving in his soul. Hey! Dr. Lester Paul again. Hear that? We want the youth to come in the calypso and we make it sense using things of substance. Have you ever danced with that? Like you're walking down the stairs and you're singing. Listen to this verse. Listen to this. Powers that be, debate and decree injudiciously, according to whim. Chaos and war like never before. No chance of hope could future as dim. But as I walk along the beaten path I found, reason to think my belief is song. Chorus. From pole to pole, Satan in control. But there is still some loving, there is still some goodness. When I see man positive, and man who could still forgive, not just to impress with a noble role, I know there is still some loving, there is still some goodness, still some loving in his soul. When I see a bosom friend, hold on to the very end, unselfishly put friendship before goal, I know there is still some loving, there is still some goodness, still some loving in this world. Hey! That's St. Paul. Hear this. And look at the lyrics coming down. The song now getting strong. Listen to the rhyming and serious lyrics reading on telephone. Hear that. Don't you hear lyrics here? Being neurotic, psychotic and cruel is characteristic of man's attitude. Remorse and guilt, suspicion and fear, horror and filth exist everywhere. Yet oftentimes I see in my society traces of conscious morality. Although this world is out of control, there is still some loving, there is still some goodness. When I see the surrogate whose reactions demonstrate respect for their fellow man on the whole, I know there is still some loving, there is still some goodness, still some loving, still some goodness in his soul. When I see sincerity in an act of charity, and I hear right virtues being extolled, I know there is still some loving, there is still some goodness in his world. Chapels of sin, where passions pulsate, could never begin to subdue man's fate. A golden light illumine the night, demonstrating the truth and the right, demonstrating the truth and the right. But as the time goes by, no matter how they try, the everlasting flame wouldn't die. Although this world Satan in control, but there is still some love, there is still some love, there is still some goodness. When I see certain people, they're leading by example, and they know hampers in parcel, I know there is still some love. People taking risks at the hospital to see about patients and problems. Yes. In their souls. When I see those on duty put their lives in jeopardy, and the and the hospitals under their control. You know why? There is still some loving, like what Tony Diaz. Look how Gabby shows loving from Barbados. Still some loving. And all the professors and hey! Going outside, that's the kids. Yes, man. Dr. Lester Paul, the name of that one is philanthropy. Composed on a telephone. Dr. Winston Joker, the genius, will always be remembered. There is still some goodness, still some loving, still some goodness in this world. There is still some loving happening. Don't give up. It's a song of hope that we need right now in this world. Yeah, that's it. That's two brand new ones. Eternal love and philanthropy.
All right, cool. So thanks, Crazy. That was an excellent way to end the night. So on behalf of NALIS, thank you, Friends of Mr. Biswas and UWI for partnering with us on this great night of education and learning and entertainment. And we just want to thank everyone again for joining us. And good night. We look forward to more conversations like these.
Will this record it? You could play it, send it to somebody?
Yeah, so it's on YouTube now. So or you could go back and look back at it right now.
What a type in? What a type in when on YouTube?
Just check NALIS TT. NALIS TT.
All right. Thanks so much. Right. I enjoyed it. And Tony Dial, you did a great job. Thanks to Gabby and thanks to everybody, the professors.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right, beautiful.
Hey.
Good night, folks.
Yes.